Hello, everyone. Welcome to Market Me Social. Be social simple is always my motto, and it's so great to have you viewing this video today. In this video, I provided a complimentary session for the Institute of Real Estate Management where we went over a whole bunch of fun nerd things, but more importantly, some actionable items that we could take away and apply to our business now in this changing climate that we are in. So enjoy the show. We're going to dive into some things that you can do ahead of time, but let's get back to basics, because I know I'm looking at a couple of things on here, and it's good to practice and to is it TJ, your point, everybody has different platforms. We don't have time to cover what Zoom does, what Google Meet does, what GoToMeeting does. I use Zoom, but for the most part, you want to be looking for all of these technical items ahead of time. I've actually done a lot of coaching for organizations to have what is labeled a technical director. If you are having enough people on a meeting, you want to have someone who is kind of driving the show, running the show, organizing things ahead of time, and going through those walkthroughs. A technical director should be focused on, do you know how to raise your hand? And so, for instance, when you're going through a huge group like this, let me tell you what it looks like from my perspective. If we had 5 of you who were scheduled to speak today, but we had 50 people on the call, you normally, as a technical director, would make sure everybody is muted. Now, when that person is called upon, knowing how to raise your hand becomes even more important. Because if I had to go like this, and I'm sitting here and I'm trying to think, okay, where is John Rebo? Let me see. I'm trying to find you. Hang on 1 second. I gotta okay, no. So, I mean, it just sounds terrible. It looks terrible, and kind of like takes away from the quality of the meeting. But when someone knows how to raise their hand, and so raising your hand again, if you click on your participant box in the bottom, it should open its own separate window. And in that window, you'll see everybody on the call. At the bottom of that window, and as some of you have demonstrated, and if you see something a little bit different, go ahead and raise your hand and correct me what you see in your view. Depending on the device, it may be a little bit different. But in that participant window, it should be a raise hand and lower hand feature. When someone raises their hand, that automatically pulls that participant up to the top within Zoom. So now, as I've asked questions, you've raised your hand, I don't have to go looking through anything. I can just see that that digital hand has been raised, and we can kind of call and talk to people in an orderly fashion. Okay, so okay, very good. Brian, you raised your hand. Do you have something to say? You have to unmute yourself now too.
No, I just realized I just figured out how to raise my hand. So I have nothing to say. I'm going to unraise it now. How do I unraise it?
Should be a lower your hand function.
Unraise it. Lower your hand. There you go.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, so that's crucial. It helps really kind of keep things, nice and smooth. And as everybody learns how to do that, that may be something if you are organizing things as a technical director, or if you're the meeting host, try and go through those exercises. Now, I know it's impossible. People are running late. They're going from meeting to meeting. You may not always have the time necessarily to review that, but those are some items that are pretty important, especially for your speakers. And you may not want to, if you can, do it the day before. You know your audience, and you've got to be able to determine, okay, who's the tech savvy people, who is not, what can you do to assist them? So one of the things that I try to coach people on too is like just the good use of a virtual background and your video camera placement. So right now, a lot of us are used to probably having this as a device. You may even be using it this morning as your tablet. So if you're the one presenting though, think of it from an audience perspective. So right now, if I was using my tablet, this would be kind of like the view you may see, my head down, or opposite, you're kind of like looking up at me depending where the angle is. So that's something that's really, really important. Think of where your camera is. And if you are a presenter, you can even see me. I'm kind of like looking around all of you. I have you all in gallery view, but I'm from your perspective, I'm not making direct eye contact with you. And especially if you have the view in gallery view versus speaker view, you can kind of try and play around with that to see what difference it makes. So specifically, when you're talking to a presenter, have them kind of see themselves, what they look like in speaker view, and they may not want to have that up during their presentation. They may want to focus on something else. So I'll usually tell people, with wherever your webcam is or wherever your video camera is, have maybe something as a placeholder right in front of that that's going to keep your attention focused on that video camera so that you're never leaving it. That way, if you do have notes, maybe they're there on the screen, maybe they are something you have to look down at, but you're getting that one-on-one eye contact as much as possible. And that really, really helps facilitate that audience contact when you're talking to a large group. Okay. TJ had a question, or?
Just a comment that I've had to kind of get used to, and I know as more people are tending toward working from home, which I've done most of my career, my home office setup, probably like a lot of you, I have dual monitors.
Right.
Well, the monitor that I like to look at does not have the camera. So when I'm in a demo or when I'm in a Zoom meeting now, I just unplug the monitor, so I'm not even tempted to look over there, because it really can grab your attention and keep you there. So that, just for me, trying to do the best you can with body language and eye contact and all that. I just didn't need that distraction, so I turn it off now when I'm in a demo mode.
Yeah, no, great tips. So again, it depends on the environment that you're in. I use a second monitor as well. So if I'm trying to be a host and directing, it gets a little bit challenging because you're monitoring all kinds of different things. But if I'm just directing a meeting, or if someone is directing a meeting that I'm in, that individual will, for instance, have that chat box over in a different window. You can actually remove the participant window aside from your gallery view and have that in its own location on your second monitor. And if that helps to kind of keep things organized for you, then try that out as an idea. Has anybody tried with any of the different platforms the breakout room function? Have you used that yet? No, I'm seeing a lot of heads shaking. Okay, so one head. Susan, you've tried it?
We have a Zoom meeting tomorrow, and we've never had a large one before. It's usually been 10, 15 people. This one became 56, and how to manage it was we freaked out. So now we're giving a shot for the breakout rooms tomorrow.
Okay.
8-minute breakouts. We're going to do 8-minute breakouts.
Awesome.
And then bring them back and shuffle. Apparently Zoom will automatically shuffle them back out into random groups again when we hit send again.
Right.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, no. Kudos to you guys for jumping in and trying that out. That's been a scary feature for some, that they're like, oh, where did everybody go? And they are. If you're not in that room, you literally have no idea what's going on. But it is an amazing, amazing tool if you are training a large group. Let's say you are doing product training, TJ, or for our speakers who are on here, Cheryl, you teach at UGA, and I've used it for some of the classes I've taught. It's wonderful, because that's one of the things industry speakers have spoken out a lot. It's speaking and teaching. The best way to be able to get that point home is for people to talk about it. They need to be able to, okay, let's practice this. We're going to try customer service skills by talking to each other and role playing some sort of an exercise. So that breakout room is absolutely amazing to be able to bring it down into whatever size groups. Even if it's just 2 or 3 people that you want per group, you can do that. And to your point, Susan, yeah, you can either predetermine who's going to be in the groups, or you can let Zoom kind of randomize it. And then there's a timer so that you're not having to worry about it. So, all right, everybody, we got 10 minutes and we're going to go over this particular challenge. Get in your group, talk about it, and let's come back and see what everybody's comments were and how this particular challenge was solved, or whatever the scenario is. So definitely try that out. I love it. I think it is a great feature, and Zoom continues to kind of add some other features that just make the experience even great. So a couple other items before we move on, just from overall meetings. Work on your lighting. That's another item that can really make a difference on what you're doing. Now, I know everyone's really if you haven't noticed, if you tried to buy a webcam at the beginning of this pandemic, you probably found it was very, very difficult, or they were very, very expensive. The webcam that I have an HD 1080 Logitech, and it auto corrects my audio when I'm using it. Right now I'm using this professional microphone. Just it adds another little bit of quality, helps really with the experience. So just adding a few elements can really, up your quality game. But what I like about this camera is that it also has an auto light feature. So right now I have a window open with the blinds. It's automatically correcting, so I don't have any like big shadows and things, or it looks like I'm sitting in a closet somewhere. So lighting is also really, really important for that overall environment. So play around with that. And what helps is, somebody mentioned like doing a practice session before. Do that with your lighting also. If someone else is in your home, have them get on that same Zoom meeting and create your environment. I think, Brian, you and I were chatting just before we started. You need to have your zone. If we're going to be continuing to work from home for an extended period of time, get everything set up, especially from that technical perspective. Know what lighting works, know what volume is going to, what kind of atmosphere you need for good audio quality, and be careful of things that really can make your room very echoey. So a couple tips when it comes to audio: close the windows, close the blinds, close the door. If you're in a very, very big room, you're going to more than likely have echo issues, and it may sound very, very hollow. But if you can, these types of microphones that have a pedestal that sit on your desk, you can get them for $40 and up. Some I've seen that are really good, that aren't too bad, around 100 to 120. But they really do change that game, and it adds that level of professionalism. So that's really the concept here. We know how we are in person. We know how to get our game on and how to get our personality on, and how we can, shake that hand and really connect with people one-on-one. That's what we're built. That's how we were made. It was to do that. And now it's the transition of all of these little things are going to make a huge difference when it comes to continuing to have like these virtual meetings. And if you are doing like virtual meetings where they're more of a casual, you still need to have some structure. I've been on a few where it's, well, let's have a happy hour, and everybody's just kind of like, in a bar setting, for sure. Yeah, we know what that means. Somebody serves us a cocktail. We start talking about the good old days, or what's happening at work, what's happening with our family. And it's easy because it's an open atmosphere. But everybody knows if everybody was unmuted right now and everyone started talking, it wouldn't work. It would just sound like Zoom has no way of being able to translate that audio to us so that we're in that open social environment. So even if you are doing some sort of a social virtual occasion, you still want to have some sort of a structure to it so that everybody's having a good time. You can use the breakout room function. Use some game. I've seen a lot of people doing games and things together online, nothing to do with work necessarily, but some good things to think about. Any questions about Zoom or anything in general when it comes to making your virtual meeting experience that you've ran into some challenges that you have a question on? All good, Brian?
Yeah, so ours, and I'm sure there are other people on the call that this would relate to. I assume there is. Ours is very much a relationship business, and all of the marketing and the business development efforts that we've invested in have been what we call handshake opportunities. So the luncheons, for example, I think everybody on the call is familiar with the IREM luncheons. That's always a good opportunity for us to be face-to-face and shake hands and make a connection with folks, and then we're able to follow up with that. Teaching seminars or volunteering, anything that's got us in an environment where we're able to build rapport and relationships with commercial property managers. Radio, certainly television, even newsprint ads or anything like that it really has no bearing for us because we're so targeted. We are the world. We just want a very specific group of people that we want to be in front of, that we can help, our services apply to. Having said that, what are options out there today to create relationships when there are physically, literally no handshake opportunities?
Yeah.
When there are no lunches and there are nobody's volunteering at Atlanta Food Bank, and there's no wine tasting, which you guys know we hosted the wine tasting for years, and so so what are the ways that we are able to develop new relationships with people who don't necessarily know us when there is no type of opportunity like that?
Yeah. No, solid question, Brian. And a pretty overall big answer. This is where I think everybody's trying to figure out how they can pivot. One of the challenges when social media really started hitting the mainstream was there was an automatic trouble and challenge with adoption because it just didn't feel the same. And it's true. Saying something to someone on Facebook or Twitter is not the same as if we're sitting in the same room together and having that conversation. And so a lot I really struggled with, well, how do I build a relationship with someone on social media? And so they opted out, but now here we are. And again, the irony is there, building that social capital. So let me just share a few things that I went through, and maybe that'll kind of facilitate some more questions. We kind of build ourselves up for those events that you mentioned, Brian. Like we work. We know we have this huge social event on our calendar. And so we are ready and we're engaged. Our phone is off. We are there in that room. We're sipping that wine at the wine tasting. We're having a good time with someone at the luncheon at the Ansley Golf Club or wherever, the other chapters, wherever you hold your functions. And we're in that moment. So those are all gone. So what do we do about it? So my approach has always been in the same way that event was just consistent, like from a mental framework. We just had it on our calendar. We look forward to those events that happen on a quarterly basis, a monthly basis, whatever the case may be, our mindset has to kind of switch a bit for what we're going to do on a daily basis. I've been in sales before. For some of you who don't know me, I was in sales for a very, very long time. I understand your pain when you kind of like you were dependent upon those events to be able to build those relationships, and ultimately, if there's a need, to be able to gain more business. So that's where it comes down to a new type of consistency and moving out of your comfort zone, so to speak, and building yourself as that authority figure in a social world. And that's not something that necessarily is going to happen overnight. One of the pain points that people feel is when they first start posting. And again, if you guys have any comments on what you've personally experienced. So you post something on Facebook or you post something on LinkedIn. And it's crickets. Nothing happens. Nobody comments on it. And you're like, well, this is a complete waste of my time. So now, not only are you battling the fact that you can't talk to anybody, but in social media, nobody's responding to anything that you share and post. So there's a fundamental need for the understanding of how social media platforms work. It will take time, but the only way you are going to have a measure of social success is with social consistency. You have to develop your own program. You know, Brian, your videos, I loved it. John, the one that you put out on the weekend. Again, I didn't have a chance to kind of look at everybody's social because a lot of the registrations just came in yesterday, but that was on my mind to kind of see what you've been doing and take a look at it and give you some feedback. But you have, just as much as it was a plan in your calendar for those social events that you're going to attend in person, it has to be a plan in your social calendar for social media, whether it's LinkedIn. Now, in this group, I would definitely recommend LinkedIn be one of your main choices that you want to build. If there's anything right now from a business perspective, it should be your LinkedIn account and building those relationships. And so something that you said, Brian, really resonated with me. Here's what you don't want to do. LinkedIn is not your bulletin board. Any social media for that matter. It is not a giant, please buy my stuff board. Is anybody seen those? Like, have you gotten some LinkedIn requests for connections that just made you go like, it just made you cringe? Can anybody share any of those? Like, what made you cringe? Someone says, I'd like to connect with you. And you read it and you're like, any phrases or anything along that line, why did it make you feel like kind of icky and you might have just ignored that connection request? Sherry?
So this was on LinkedIn, but it wasn't necessarily a business. So a couple of times it was like they thought it was like a dating site. Does that make sense?
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's kind of gross. And so, yeah, kind of creepy.
Okay, now I'm completely confused. I thought LinkedIn was a dating site. Is it?
It was you. It was you.
I've been trying to date Jonathan Starr for years, and he. No, I think to Sherry's point, I think anytime I get something from someone that is just so far removed from who I am and what we do, and like I get LinkedIn requests from, I don't know, a software engineer in India. I'm like, what are you doing? I don't even know why are you reaching out to me? I don't, how could I possibly help you do anything?
Yeah.
So to your point, Jonathan, that something like that. Or another thing is if I get the same response or same thing like repeatedly, it's exactly the same message, and I get it 3 or 4 times, exactly the same. You clearly know it's just canned. It's just being sent out on autopilot.
Right. Right. So
What I found is once I reached 500 is when I started getting all those requests. And it dawned on me, all they're after are your links. It's not that they care anything about you, but I think they just want your customer list, essentially. You think that's what it is, Jonathan, as much as anything?
I do. Who am I speaking with? Because that came across as Deborah Westfall is talking.
That's Chuck.
Oh, Chuck.
Chuck
Okay.
Negus.
Let me change it. So I. Very
Yeah,
good.
I cut my hair.
Okay.
Actually, I haven't had a haircut, but I hope I don't look like Deborah.
Very good. All right. So I changed your name, Chuck. So we got I can associate the voice with the right person. Yeah. So good point, Chuck. Absolutely. And so you'll develop your own kind of procedure or policy for, what connections you're going to accept and ones that just don't make any sense whatsoever. TJ, do you have a comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say really 2 things for me is number 1, and maybe 3, Jonathan. Number 1 is if I get the request and I don't know this person from Adam, and to Chuck's point, I don't know him from Adam, and there are no common connections in my industry, right? That I don't see. I mean, I'm pretty connected out there, and if I don't see someone with 5 or 10 or 30 mutual connections, then it's kind of weird to me.
Right.
Just because our community is kind of small, frankly.
Right.
Then the other thing for me from a sales perspective is I don't want to be the creeper either. I don't want to mass connect. I don't want the people that I'm trying to connect with to feel like that either.
Right.
And so I try to be relevant to them in the message. I try not to make it the generic, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. I like to try to build value in the relationship. I think I have value that I can bring to the relationship, but I don't want to overstep, and I don't want to be generic. So I think that's a fine line for anyone on this call that's in sales and trying to build those relationships virtually. It's a difficult thing, and you don't know the person, so you don't know what turns them off or makes them feel, like, poor Cherry. I hate that for the female contingent on the phone. I don't have a problem with that. And I think probably none of the males on here do. I saw a piece on that Lisa, I think you pronounced Lisa's name, Lisa Trozine. She's a multifamily. Yeah. So she's a multifamily consultant, and she had a really good piece on that. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that people do use LinkedIn as a social platform that goes so far beyond business. And I think that there's a time and a place for everything, and LinkedIn should be geared toward our business and the professional things that we do.
Right.
And not a dating site. I hate that for y'all.
Yeah, good points. Very good points. And so that kind of leads to, and I'm going to share my screen in a minute. We're going to go through a LinkedIn profile and just kind of give you some reminders and maybe some things that you haven't really thought about using. It's not just so much about liking someone's post. There's a lot more to LinkedIn to build your social capital, so to speak, than just connecting with people. Something that you said, TJ, kind of just resonated with me. We are connected with a lot of people. So we really need to be working within that network that we have already. Going out and making new connections is fine, but there's going to be a timeline. To me, it's no different than any other relationship. You don't walk up to someone that you first met and say, "Will you marry me? Will you live with me? Let's go on vacation together." It doesn't happen in the real world. So to do that from a transactional standpoint, hi, nice to meet you. Would you please buy my stuff? it's not going to work. You are just going to completely devalue yourself as a professional. So you are developing that relationship. And so within your own network, you have a lot of opportunities because you have those trusted relationships to be able to, for instance, do you have in your network enough people that you could say, well, if you like, especially now, it's been real tough to get out and meet people. Have you shared what we do for you? Is there someone that you could refer me to? Anybody that because am I doing a good job? But you need to know that you have that relationship first. And that sometimes is one of the bigger challenges, especially from a sales perspective, is unfortunately, and again, we're not going to get into a whole leadership episode here on guerrilla marketing and sales quotas and all this other stuff that I've heard some amazing horror stories, especially in the last couple of months, of what's being done in some organizations. But you got to do your own part. So let's, if you have it available, let's get on your LinkedIn account. And we're going to go through a few different items. Let me just get to my profile, and then I'll share my screen with you. And if you have any questions as we go along, make sure you raise your hand so we can talk about them. All right, let me share my screen. Okay, very good. Everybody can see my screen okay? Good? And that's right, very good. Okay, so let's go through a few sections. Let's just start with the very top. Now, this is a matter of it's connect the dots, it's do it all. Get in. Don't do just some of it. If you're going to be a LinkedIn superstar, professional, know the platform, use everything that's available to you. Every little bit helps. Just like we went through so many details and what it takes to have a good virtual meeting, and we barely scratched the surface from a what kind of content and stuff that you can share. Let's look at what is available to you. Number one thing that I see a lot who don't use this is their cover section. So if I was to edit this, I'm talking about this area right here. Right now, LinkedIn has by default, I think it's like a kind of a turquoisey, starry thing that is there just by default. You want to have this section filled because it's going to add to your brand, whether it's your personal brand or whether it is your company brand. That's a decision that you may be making as a company, what should be there, especially if there's multiple people that represent your organization. You would want to have some sort of consistency so that, as you can see, a lot of you guys get that same email, every few days. Who's looked at your profile? They're hopping around. They're doing a background check on us before they necessarily may call us or try to interact with us. So it says it's a 1584 by 396. Now, if you don't have any Photoshop skills, you can use something as simple as Canva. Has everybody heard of Canva? Canva.com, Canva.com. Great. There's a free tool. There's a paid tool, and makes it very, very easy to make yourself a cover photo. So definitely think about what you can put, for that picture. The next is your profile picture. So make sure it's not your high school photo. I've been really confused at times where it's so old. You may have put it on there in 2006 when LinkedIn first was launched, and here we are in 2020, 14 years later. So try and get something that's a little bit current, and go ahead and change it up. Like, have some different headshots that kind of reflect, your personality. Okay, the next item. So this is where, from a personal, my personal experience when it comes to people trying to connect with me, this is the one that it can be really creepy or it can be really, really smart. So your headline doesn't necessarily have to be, director of IREM, but it can be. That's fine. It can be, sales associate for Lease Hawk or Yardi. If that's what it is, great. It's a clear identifying item, but you have the option to kind of make it a little bit creative. Tell a little story about yourself in those few words. Where I personally feel, and it's creepy to me, is when someone is trying to sell me something in their headline. And that's what I see as my first impression. So I'm reaching out to you, I want to connect, and I put on there, guaranteed 10,000 website visits per month, Jonathan. That's just, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense whatsoever, right? So Jamie, go ahead. I see your hands raised.
How do you feel about an email address in that heading? Is that too upfront or too boastful?
Personally, yeah. I'm not sure I would. Again, it may be different for what your business is, but if you think that your sales cycle, like when I was in sales for corporate, on average, it was a year to 18 months, was a sales cycle for the type of products that we had. Maybe some of you can resonate that's typically there. So if you're just first introduced to someone and you already know that that's your sales cycle, then I'm not sure how an email would help. You've got an opportunity to kind of just give them something to be able to talk to you about further on without having to give a piece of contact information. That's already available in your contact info. It should be listed there.
It is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So definitely have it there. But there's only so much space in that headline. And maybe you guys have noticed, it's like when someone introduces themselves and would like to connect, you get that ... It's because they've tried to cram so much stuff into that headline and nobody sees it anyway. So you've got like the first 5-6 words that anybody's going to see. Just, use it wisely. And my headline actually came from my customers. Years ago, I asked my customer base, I asked one of the classes I taught, like, how do you guys see me? So ask your customers, ask your peers, when they think of you, what's like the first expression that comes to their mind? And it actually blew my mind. I had so many people said, you are a street smarts guy. Your fundamentals. So, I mean, I've ran with that for quite a long time. Cheryl, you have your hand up?
Yeah. Is there a way when you're making changes in your LinkedIn profile that you can block things off and kind of do it so it just changes it without announcing to the world? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
Edit it in private, offline kind of.
Yes. Let me see if I can find that real quick for you, Cheryl. So when you add, like, for instance, if you're changing your job title, you have an opportunity now, and LinkedIn didn't used to have this, whether you want your industry to be updated or not. So if you check that box, if your job title has changed, then it will post it to your network. But if you leave it unchecked, then it shouldn't post it there. So you don't get those enormous amount of messages. So they do have some more options. You just need to kind of get in there and kind of learn what some of them are, because they've continued to change them. I think, Deborah, I've taught LinkedIn for 7 years, 8 years now for IREM or more. And every class has been different. It's been different every single year. So you need to be kind of aware of what features are available to you. But that's a good question. Thanks. Thank you, Cheryl. Okay. So title, your position. Make sure you have all these items kind of filled out where people can connect with you on. You can make unique websites. You know, you can add, it doesn't have to be just social. You can make them kind of unique and add your, you know, some of your other personal profile items. So let's scroll down for a second though. Here's where we can get into some fun stuff from a social perspective. If you get down to this section on your LinkedIn profile, does everybody see like the skills and endorsements and the recommendation section? So let's take a moment and just hear from you. What have you done with these two sections, and how have you appreciated it? Like, has it been of when you've given recommendations, what kind of feedback have you gotten from people that you've endorsed or you've recommended? Anybody have any stories to share? Okay, so here's some homework then. Find 5 people that you have done business with and give them a recommendation. Do that. Do that today. Put it in your calendar once a month. I'm going to go to this section. I'm going to find people that I'm connected with, and I'm going to endorse them for something. So you can endorse. The endorse function is a little bit simpler than the recommendation function, but they are both extremely valuable. So the more you give to your network, the more it's the art of reciprocity. People will reciprocate. And especially now, since we're talking about the lack of virtual or lack of in-person opportunities, this is another way you can give that digital handshake. Go and find people and give some heartfelt recommendations and reasons why, and so on and so forth. Okay, take a minute and try that out. Like if you were to, let me see, who can I pick on? Brian, let me go on yours, because I was on yours earlier. So if I go on Brian's and I see he has listed these various items as his personal skills, it's as easy as clicking that plus. And then it asks you, you know, what level, what's your relationship? We've worked together indirectly. I just know Brian from IREM. We've never personally worked with each other, but I know his skills. He's had business for a long time. It's very easy for me to go ahead, click that, and provide that recommendation to Brian. And that goes for anybody else. So it's like it's a digital, you know, high five. We all need those high fives right now. So look for those opportunities and share that. Does anybody have any questions on either of those tools, the skills and endorsements, or the recommendation section, how you get to them, what you should do? Everybody good? Okay, good. All right, the last item, you know, and I'm kind of curious to see where this is going to go. So this is, again, an opinion. It'll be interesting to see within a few months from now what happens with things like LinkedIn groups. Now, when LinkedIn groups, and any groups for that matter, when they first came on the mainstream, they were actually that. They were discussion groups. They were, hey, I have this challenge. I would like to have you as my community. What can you do to help me out with this challenge? And then we'd be in this group of people who are industry professionals, and we would share, oh, well, you know, here's what I tried, and I did this, and I did that, and someone else commented, and it was truly a discussion. Unfortunately, with a lot of LinkedIn groups over the years, they turned into bulletin boards, and they were just simply, you know, someone who would start a group solely for the purpose of trying to sell their stuff to whoever they could get to come into that group. And so there's been a very, very bitter taste for every class that I've taught about using LinkedIn groups. Does anybody on this call currently get engaged in any type of group forums, whether it's on LinkedIn or anything else? A little bit? Go ahead and unmute yourself, Deborah. What's your experience, or is that Susan? What's been your experience when you first started doing groups, or any comments and just what you feel the experience is like currently?
This is Susan. I manage 2 LinkedIn groups.
Okay.
And to be honest, no one has ever been able to explain to me how people see the posts, how to get the conversation started. So we have always just treated them like any other LinkedIn post. So it's just never made any sense.
Got it. Yeah. Deborah, you had a comment too?
No, that was good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, no, and so I feel you. I'm the exact same way. This is why I bring it out. My hypothesis is, will there be a change? Will we go back to what community forums were for? And I challenge you to try and explore that. Try and be that person who gets those conversations going. It's very simple, like Quora. Has anybody ever used Quora? It's Quora.com. It's a very simple question and answer forum, and it's never, ever been anything different. It is one of the best social websites to me for specifically, I don't know what I'm doing. Can anybody help me? And you can be an industry thought leader on Quora. Now, for our industry, this is an opportunity for you, without selling something, to be an industry leader, to be able to share with your network your expertise. Let me type it in the chat to everyone what I was talking about. So it's Quor, and let me double check, make sure I got it right. Spelling like a, there it is. Yeah, Quora, Quora. So, take a look at that, and you'll see some good kind of like best practices of what to do and what not to do, and how people are sharing something in more of a community environment. And if you do have LinkedIn groups that you participate in, be that thought leader, and don't try and game the system. If you do have legitimate questions that you're trying to learn more about, this is the opportunity to do it. The more that you understand the industry that we're in, the better you're going to be able to help people on LinkedIn. So Roxanne, I see your question. What's your biggest audience engagement strategy from a business page vantage point? So Roxanne, you can unmute yourself if you want. Are you talking about a LinkedIn business page?
Hi, yes, I am. So our thing is, we've created forums to just introduce best practices, industry best practices, and just get that communication piece rolling, and just no one participates. That's been my biggest struggle. Like, what is your biggest, engagement, strategy that you use?
Yeah. Very good. Excellent question. So it'll be another one of those items. It will take time. It will feel like you're talking to a brick wall, and we're going to dive into that very, very extensively now. So what I'm going to share with you guys applies to everything that you do from a social. Your customers need to know where you are. So in a little bit, as we have time, we're going to talk about email marketing and why building your email marketing list is so important, whether it's for an IREM chapter or whether we're in property management, whether we are an industry partner. You should have a strategy, because in the blink of an eye, LinkedIn could be gone tomorrow. And if your sole focus is on, well, I'm going to build my network because I'm on LinkedIn, you could be in for a real whole lot of pain. And I'll give you guys a quick example. I was a keynote speaker about 10 years ago for a company, and the whole session was on Facebook page strategies. That's what they wanted me to teach all of their franchises how to use Facebook pages. So this is what they were betting on. This is really going to change their business. The night before my presentation, Facebook changed everything, changed their algorithm, changed how you could post, what you could post, where you could share, how you could connect. They changed everything. I had to redo my entire presentation that night and be ready for the next day. But it taught me a huge lesson on, okay, we can't have all of our eggs in one basket when it comes to any platform. So even though I say, if you're new to social media, try and focus on one group, the principles apply on any of them. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, whatever you decide you want to use to try and engage and build yourself a community, they're all the same. But to your question specifically, Roxanne, your company and your customers need to know that that's what you're using. If it's just kind of put out there and you're hoping somebody's going to connect to it, it will never happen. You have to push that message wherever you're at. Use it in your email signature. Put it on your website, in your newsletter, and make that a focus as much as possible. With some of our clients, a whole newsletter has been, we are doing a special educational series on Instagram. Please connect. Stay tuned for more information. That has been the only piece of information in that newsletter, because there was a plan, there was a content program, and we wanted to make sure that our community was ready and available for that content program. And then we switched it up for our LinkedIn page. This month, we are focusing on the top news items in fair housing. Please connect with us on our LinkedIn company page, and you'll be able to get, be made aware of, whatever the content is. So you guys get the point. If you're just hoping people will connect, especially when it comes to your company profiles, don't do that. Have a very long-term strategy, and don't just 1 month in, 1 month out. All right, LinkedIn's not working for us. Let's try Facebook. Facebook's not working for us. Let's try Twitter. Don't do that. Don't do that. They are successful platforms. LinkedIn, way more than Facebook right now. You have the benefit of a much better algorithm with LinkedIn at this time. So definitely try and build that. Now, within LinkedIn pages, Roxanne, and for everyone, I'm not sure if you guys had noticed this or not. So let me just jump over to the IREM Georgia page. That way I can show you. Now, this is fairly new, and the way they're rolling it out for different people, I'm not sure what you see on your company page, but let me get to, hang on 1 second here. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So just like Facebook had the feature to invite people to like your page, you have the option here to invite connections to follow your page. So that's another way to build engagement. Now, I've heard from different people how many credits that they get. I don't know if anybody sees that on your page right now. Do you guys have any comments on what you're seeing on your company page? How many, how many credits you have available? No? Okay. So take a look at that. So you can go through and invite people to your page and kind of build it up from there. Okay. So Deborah, yeah, to your point about tagging, that's another really important function that I love about almost all such social networks is the tag function. So you will get a lot more reach if you can tag someone. And so that's why it's so awesome when you're not talking necessarily about your stuff, but if you're talking about people that you've worked with, where the tagging feature really comes into play. Donna, you have a comment? Go ahead.
Sorry about that. So as I said, I'm with IREM New York, and we started out with our LinkedIn page for a group page. for a couple of years and had very limited success. In fact, I'm green with envy when I look at Deborah's Georgia page and see they have, 700 members and we have about 160, and we're New York City. So we switched to a company page, a business page. So I'm now trying to build our followers, if you will. And I noticed the thing about the credits. So my question is there a way to increase the amount of credits you have available, or is it just as you're given 100 and then you use them and then it whittles down again and you add a couple more? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Donna, and I don't have the answer for that because LinkedIn has just been rolling this out. So that's why I was saying from other clients, they didn't see this feature, and then some said they did, and some said they only had 10 available. So I don't know. I don't know how they're making those decisions on who's doing what. I would imagine though that there will be a universal, application for this across the board at some point. But typically, whenever any social media platform is adding a feature, they beta test it to see, who's doing what, and I typically, because I'm so involved in social media, I usually get a lot of the initial beta test stuff first to kind of test out and see what it's like. So it's kind of cool. But definitely, yeah, if you're trying to build your page up, and Deborah knows this, I've been working hard to build more the IREM Georgia company page versus the group, because the group just has so many limitations, because LinkedIn is trying to get people to use it as a group, as a discussion place, and not a place for posting. So
And
go ahead.
In New York, I mean, it just fell flat. I mean, there's no engagement whatsoever.
Yeah.
So as I said, the decision was basically it's still there, but to sort of abandon it and then just move on and do the company page.
Right. Yeah. There is a lot of work in groups. Facebook groups is actually doing way better than LinkedIn groups right now. Facebook groups has become a much friendlier environment for those who are looking for a community forum. So, but you need a community leader or leaders. And that's what I like about Facebook groups, is you can actually label people as a networker or as a conversational specialist. You have these fun things that you can do with Facebook groups that really, they add to that. Like nobody has time to sit here and be on a community forum all day long. We all have regular things that we're going to do. But if you have brand ambassadors that will speak on behalf of you, and it is in that environment, it's not a sales pitch. It is what can we do to build up commercial property management right now? Like, that's a huge thing that people need to be talking about. Commercial property management is something that is, multifamily is having their own struggles with rent collection, but commercial property managers are like, what are we going to do to sustain these closures for the next however many months? And those are things that a community, if you have people who are passionate about it, can really get that conversation going. And those are opportunities for all of us to really jump in if we're trying to build our network and build our street creds, I guess, whatever, our social creds. You can jump in and be part of that giving. So that's kind of like my takeaway. And I want everybody to really kind of pay attention to where this will go. I think there's going to be a shift, and it'll be interesting to see what LinkedIn does about it. But just as an industry, I think there's going to be a change in how some of these groups are being used, and they might get back to something that's a little bit more conversational, Okay. All right. So on your feed, we're going to just do a couple more things on LinkedIn. Then we're going to move over to, best practices for building a community. And then any other questions that you have. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about emails for a second too. We're starting to get, the time flies real quick. So here's what I do on LinkedIn. I have my set time, and I spend X amount of time every single day. And I go through my feed, and I will connect with people. Sometimes I'm lazy. Sometimes it's, okay, that's my buddy Lisa. I've known Lisa for a long time. I'll like it. And other times I will take a moment and comment on it. But there is something that I'm doing. There is something that I'm doing. And what's great is if you find an article that is really, really awesome and you want to share it with someone that you think will find it awesome, tag them. Tag them in the comments. That's a great way to get more people involved in the conversation and to build up your personal algorithm. So at the outset, I shared with you, when you first start posting on LinkedIn, it's like crickets. Nobody's clicking on it. Nobody's liking it. And I went through a time period where I was, very busy with some projects for the company, and I wasn't on LinkedIn very much. And then I tried to get back on again, and I'm like, hey, what happened? Nobody loves me. It's like nobody's clicking on anything. Nobody's sharing any, and I used to have all of that, but I got out of the routine, and that became a little bit of a detriment to my overall social, my social scheduling and outreach. So that's the idea. Do something every day and do what you would do in person. Hey, I know someone who would like this. Hey, that's a good idea. I'm going to share this article with my network. Hey, someone's looking for a job. Tag some people that, may be interested in learning more about that person who's looking for a job, or share their post with a staffing agency. Do whatever you can on LinkedIn to help other people. The other stuff will come organically. You don't have to sweat it. It just will. We got some tough times that we're potentially facing over the next little bit. So this is the reason why even more, don't put your head in the sand. Learn how to use this stuff and get involved, and try and take your personality as best as you can and push it onto these social platforms. Use video, use whatever you can. Okay. Any questions? And Roxanne, if you're still there, I want to make sure I did answer your question. Anybody else have any other thoughts about challenges that they're facing, building community? Any other questions about what can be done as a best practice on social platforms? Oh, Deborah, I see your question. Can I have the messages sent to my email? So you can change it to in your personal profile where you get notifications. I got to remember where that is, Deborah.
Okay, I know where it is. I can change it. I just didn't know if it would mess up because the login is that Westfall 2468 thing.
Okay.
And I to come to Deborah at IREM GA, because I will look on LinkedIn and I feel so bad that I didn't respond to somebody from 6 months ago when they were looking for a job. And I'm thinking, why didn't they just call me, or why didn't they use my email?
Yeah.
Which is bad. I understand, but honestly, so I need to have them sent to my email. At least I'll get to them, but I can't guarantee. Most of the IAEs aren't. I don't know if y'all agree with me or not, but it's hard to keep up with all the emails and messages through LinkedIn.
Right.
And I can't juggle it. So I need to have them sent to my email, but I didn't know if I could do that without it messing up the login for you because you're an administrator.
No. Yeah, no, your personal profile it doesn't affect me as how I work with the IREM page at all. So wherever you need it to go, that's fine. And it's a good tip too, to keep it organized. All of my LinkedIn emails go into a certain folder. I'm very, very strategic about how I address communication, because there's hundreds of emails coming in. So because
we could just get our executive council people to that's a start for most of us that are still on the call. A lot of, we also have an 11 o'clock legal IREM national
Call.
session, short.
Okay.
Yes, another Zoom session. But a lot of times, if we could just tag everybody in our executive council or on committees, they will help, like the comments. And Shannon Longino 1 year ago did not want to get on Facebook, was barely on LinkedIn, and now you look at her and she's
everywhere.
She is every day. She posts every single day, and she has a lot of followers, a lot of engagement. And what I told her, I said, you don't even show up on mine. I didn't know how to search, a couple of years back. And so she said, go in and like everything. And then boom, all of a sudden she shows up on my feed. So a lot of interaction, engagement with members, and even different chapters. We can like each other's items, and that gets it up. But I'm the same way. I mean, I see one like, and then to switch over from 700 members from a company, from the group to a company, I guess I need to go in and invite everybody. Is that what I have to do to build up?
Yeah.
Got
Yeah,
it.
make that part of, and I have been too, Deborah, for our chapter. I've been going in and adding people and inviting them that I know are part of the group and part of the Atlanta area, just to kind of help build that up. But yeah, so it's just we're talking a lot of items. If I cannot emphasize this enough, you have to have consistency, and you've got to be organized. Otherwise, you'll lose your mind. I mean, I went through that when social media came out. Oh my goodness. My wife had to rip those devices away from me because people were still commenting and still sharing stuff. And it's like midnight, and you gotta have, you have to have a balance of some sort. But there are tools that are out there to kind of help. So for the other IREM chapter groups on here, so Deborah and I use Buffer. If you're wanting something to kind of help you automate your social media and post to your LinkedIn profile for you, or your LinkedIn company page, and you want to get it all done for the whole week, you can do that with Buffer. So you're not having to go to LinkedIn every day. You can use a service like that and have your posts scheduled. And so that goes for anybody. I mean, some of these tools do have a fee to them depending on what you choose to use. However, if they're going to save you a lot of time and help automate your communication, they are worth it. They're absolutely worth it. When you're trying to build that, when we're trying to build that community up. And I know for our chapters, we're trying to build engagement up just with our members, especially because we don't have the in-person events right now. So a lot that just needs to be sat down, brainstorm over. How much are we going to post? How many times a week? What are we going to post? What are the subjects that we need to share? Where are we going to get that content from? Can we use something like Google Alerts to help us with content? RSS feeds, subscriptions, things along that line. But the more discussion that you have internally, the more planning that you have. So as a marketing agency, a lot of the stuff that we do is at least 2 weeks out before, like if it's ready, it's not going to hit the press, so to speak, for another 2 weeks to 4 weeks. That's how far in advance we have a content creation plan, for our clients, and even for our own company. So it's like anything else. The more planning, the better success. Okay. All right. So I know we're running out of time, and I don't want to interfere with your guys' meeting, let you guys have a break. So the only other item, Deborah, I had on here was just about email marketing. So I'll just say a few things on that. And here's the challenge that people are having with building up their newsletters. It goes back to their website. One, is it current? Even a website that you may have had 3 years ago may no longer be relevant, and may no longer be current with like mobile speed and things along that line. You have to look at those items. If the only way people can visit your store is your website, that store has got to be beautiful. Man, you got to clean those drapes. You got to dust those shelves. take a hard look at your site and make sure that it is as up to date with current mobile standards, speed standards, engagement, even ADA accessibility. You really need to start thinking about those things. If your website is not certified ADA accessible, items you really need to consider. And it's not just for those who have disabilities, but Google even ranks those factors now. Separation between elements on your website is very, very critical, since most of our mobile stuff most website searches are on our mobile device. So if we're having a hard time, navigating our website on our mobile device, you can imagine what our customers are going through. And then the conversion options that are there. So we can do a whole day class just on email marketing, but you need to look at your site. The question I get is, well, I have 400 people a day visiting my website, but nobody filled out my contact form. Why? Yeah, it's a good question. That's a good question. There's a lot that needs to be looked at as far as what does it take for them to get to that contact form, and what are you putting on your website to help them convert them? Maybe not to a customer, but at the very least, what does it take to be a newsletter subscriber? Let me just show you guys one. Oh, I didn't know I was sharing all that time. Sorry, guys. That was another Zoom snafu. I thought I had shut that off. Okay, it did work. Okay, cool. So you see on the bottom right-hand corner had something kind of popped up, and it's an immediate call to action that's on the site. There we go. Sorry. So here in the bottom corner. So there's tools out there that allow you to engage your customers, and it can handle predictive behavior. So it will know when someone's a first-time visitor or when someone's a returning visitor. It will know if I'm about to leave the website, before you go, I have this special offer for you, so on and so forth. So there's tools out there, I guess is the point. If you're struggling with getting your website to convert, you want to be building that email newsletter base as much as possible, whether we're chapters or whether we're property managers or industry partners. Look for ways to build that list, and that's your golden egg. I don't know how else to put it. You should never ever stop building your email list, because that is the number one way to get new customers, to convert customers, because with artificial intelligence, you can now segment your email list so that specific messages go to specific people, and you're not doubling up and sending something that's not relevant to someone. So to kind of give you an example, so one of my clients, they have specific products for different housing sectors. So multifamily, student housing, senior living, tax credit, the whole bit. So their list is very specific in how we've curated it, so that if there's a message that's unique only to student housing, that the thousands of people on that list won't get that same newsletter, that only that particular segment on that list, if it's relevant to student housing, they will get that message. And so now it's unique. Often with newsletters, we're just like, okay, it's done, and we send it out to everybody. And sometimes that's relevant, and that's okay. But you want to think about ways that you can really segment your list and create unique messages so that you can kind of build up the value of that list, especially if your open rates are below 5%, 7%. Seriously take a look at what your open rates are, and talk to me if you have any questions, I guess, on how we can get those open rates up. Okay.
So I'm Roxanne with IREM San Antonio, and I have to thank you guys so much for putting this on and just sharing your knowledge. This was great. If we have a general question, kind of what's the best way to reach out to you, Jonathan?
So You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, Roxanne. I'm going to try and make sure I'm connected to everyone anyway from that was on the call.
Okay.
Did you get an email from me, Roxanne, confirming the event today?
I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did.
Okay. So that should have it should have my email address that you can reach out anytime. So especially for IREM, I'm always make myself available to all the chapters. Okay.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Cool.
Oh, and Jonathan also offers training in Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and more. So he can do it virtually for our chapters as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Thanks. So I forgot
Good
about that.
workshop.
Yeah. If anybody, so Roxanne, we've done numerous workshops for the Georgia chapter, and they are literally hands-on. Let's dig in and fix your LinkedIn, fix your Facebook, practice on Instagram. We do all that stuff. It's a true workshop.